My name is Jessica Beccarini, and I am a special education resource teacher specializing in kindergarten through grade 2. I am licensed through 8th grade and also have a master's degree in social emotional learning. Equity is an area that cannot wait for the slow movement of systemic change. It is a priority topic that must be addressed immediately in classrooms. At its core, auditing for equity implies that we plan to adjust for imbalances that exist within a system. Taking time to consider the full story of the students and families served by a classroom can help us to create equitable opportunities for each child. I am proposing that classroom teachers begin to make this change by performing an equity audit at the classroom level. The community I serve is diverse, marginalized, and traumatized. I teach special education resource in 2 Title I schools in Washington. According to an article by Helen Smith in 2020, my city's crime rate is the second highest in Washington. The second most common language in my schools, after English, is Marshallese, as noted in an article by Suzanne Rust in 2019. Communal families often strive for life in crowded conditions, not just because that is the nature of their culture, but also because our city is in the midst of a housing crisis, as reported by Adam Shanks in 2021. Families are in constant motion as they seek to find and retain housing. In addition to the language barrier and poverty conditions restricting their educational opportunities, children from the Marshall Islands are frequently impacted by cognitive and physical impairments that have resulted from radiation exposure, as reported by Dan Zak in 2015. It is important to consider other relevant aspects of a student's learning needs, such as experiencing an inferior status due to ethnicity, gender, income level, or having limited opportunities for access due to conditions of poverty, trauma, physical ability, or cognitive ability. As noted by Beth Harry et al. In 2014, exceptional learners are more likely to be students of color. Bethany Rita Frechette noted in her 2020 doctoral dissertation that students in a minority culture are over-identified, with the possibility that this over-identification is a result of bias present in those who refer students for evaluation, and even within the evaluations themselves. As a special education teacher, I am in the unique position of having access to the most comprehensive information about my students. By the time they reach me, this information has been dutifully gathered and organized in order to present a case for eligibility for special education services. This gives me the advantage of knowing minutiae about my students before they ever step foot into my classroom. Using this background knowledge, I am able to prepare for their entry and welcome them into our special community. It is helpful to have this information about individuals so that I do not overgeneralize my perceptions. An equity audit published by Rutgers in 2019 focused on 4 dimensions of equity that impacted the university as a whole. My equity audit recommendations focus on several dimensions of equity that impact individuals at the classroom level. I believe that inequities at this level impact disproportionate referrals for special education, while simultaneously underserving students who may be gifted. I recommend examining the people who will be in the classroom, the instructional activities that will be implemented, the attributes of the materials and physical space, and the ways that learning will be measured. First, as urged in an article by Ellen Fraccassini in 2018, the educator should perform a self-check to be aware of and intentionally overcome any implicit biases that may affect the preparation of instructional activities. As the leader of the classroom, the teacher should affirm the value of underrepresented students and family members. The educator should examine the individual and collective attributes of the students who will be taught in that classroom, with the mindset of preparing them for collaborative relationships. This will help the teacher develop an intersectional lens through which to view the other aspects of planning. Second, the educator should examine the instructional activities using this intersectional lens. In my district, teachers are expected to prepare their instructional activities using a universal design for learning. Rather than a one-size-fits-all approach, this type of planning promotes flexibility in the presentation of instruction. We need to be careful about our approach to the motivation of engagement using external rewards and punishments, as these are less effective than activating intrinsic motivation through culturally responsive teaching. The teacher must also examine accessibility to instruction based on the cognitive, emotional, and physical abilities and needs of the students. Third, the educator should evaluate the space and materials available to students. Using the multiple lenses of cognitive, emotional, and physical abilities gives invaluable insight into accessibility. Can every student reach every space where they are expected to be learning and working? This requires extensive consideration of things like vision, hearing, physical maneuverability, allergies, sensory triggers, and emotional triggers. Finally, the educator should evaluate measurement tools, taking into consideration the various ways that students will be able to access the instruction and respond to it. How will understanding be measured? Will students have a voice in how they demonstrate their learning? According to Basha Krasnov, in a 2016 publication called Culturally Responsive Teaching for the Region X Equity Assistance Center, teachers should approach learning tasks with high expectations. Students who are still forming their self-image are vulnerable in situations where the expectation is lower than the student's capability, or the feedback devalues the student's efforts, according to an article by Emma Gertsch in 2019. A teacher who focuses on growth rather than achievement may promote the positive mindset that motivates students to engage in the learning process. By auditing the classroom participants, the planning and delivery of instruction, the physical space and materials, and the measurement of learning, I believe that teachers will be better prepared to have a positive impact on the success of every student. If we are able to facilitate this positive impact starting in the earliest grades, I believe that we would see phenomenal growth in student engagement, motivation, and success. I believe there would be fewer referrals for special education and more referrals for gifted education. I am certain this would translate to individuals being properly prepared for participation in the broader community. Thank you for listening. If you want to learn more, feel free to connect with me. I would be happy to share my resources and my learning with you. Scan the QR code or email me at playbasedsel@gmail.com. Click to subscribe.